Chapter 5. Miggie saw a long, sharp ship covered in black spikes, racing toward her. She recognized it as the Devastia, a ship famous for its speed and deadly firepower. Miggie had read about the Devastia in one of her books on ship flying. Its glistening black surface and many spiky blasters were an intimidating sight to behold. It was said that throughout history, the Devastia's mere presence on the battlefield paralyzed Trader Nine's enemies with fear, causing them to soil themselves and surrender the fight. The blaster on the front of the Devastia glowed with red light, and then shot 6 deadly lasers in the direction of the Devastia. Miggie swerved to avoid the blasts. They must not have been aimed to inflict fatal damage because they were easy to avoid. Perhaps her assailant's intention had been to hit one of the backup engines used for accelerating the ship past light speed, thus slowing Miggie's progress to a crawl. The second blast confirmed Miggie's suspicion. It appeared as though her assailant was aiming for the backup engines. Emboldened by this realization, Miggie flew forward, accelerating past light speed. She passed the ravaged visages of resource-raped Trader 8, 7, and 6, as the Devastia continued to tail her. Then, she swerved violently in a fruitless attempt to throw them off. As hard as she was trying, however, her assailant clearly had years of shit-flying practice under his belt, whereas Miggie had only practiced with books and in broken-down simulators too vandalized or outdated to be of high value to males. The Devastia fired another round of laser beams from its blasters, and this time, Miggie's assailant hit his mark. The backup engine was disabled by the blast, and the Devastia slowed to a crawl. A black pipe shot out of the Devastia and crashed into the side of the Devastia. Miggie felt the floor around her shake, as though being moved by a sudden and tremendous torrential storm. The end of the black tube latched to the side of the Devastia, forming an airtight seal, then, biting through the side of the ship with metal fangs, forming a tunnel, which now connected the two ships. Miggie could hear Troust's voice growing louder and louder, his heavy footfalls against the metal floor of the connecting tunnel. He was getting closer. If she did not do something drastic, he would soon have her. Instinctually, like a doomed soul jumping from the top floor of a burning skyscraper, Miggie pointed the ship downward and accelerated as fast as she could.
"Get off of me, Stain!"
Troust shouted as his second-in-command, Pardris, attempted to hold him back.
"The prize is finally mine. Get off of me, I said."
"Sir, she's going down too fast. She's going to kill us all. We have to disconnect the ships."
Pardris shouted back desperately.
"She's bluffing,"
Troust shouted.
"Duty is duty. But I will not die for a silly crush."
Pardris screamed indignantly. This comment made Troust swing around and clock Pardris in the face. In the next instant, the two males were on the floor of the connecting tunnel, punching and kicking each other bloody. The fangs of the connecting tube slammed shut loudly as the Devastia tore away, and the two ships were disconnected. Miggie hurtled forward through the sky, grabbing for her emergency oxygen mask and securing it to her face as the gaping hole in the side of her ship whistled. She was headed downward, determined to land in a place where Troust would not think to look right away. She flew past the planet she'd been aiming for, tiny and desolate Trader 5. As Trader 5 disappeared into the distance, so too did the Devastia. Now the enemy ship was out of sight. Miggie had somehow managed to lose it. Likely, this was because Troust and his second-in-command, Pardris, were still fighting and the pilots were getting conflicting orders as a result. Miggie weaved between a few wandering asteroids and flew toward a small moon, which appeared to be sparsely populated. She passed a floating satellite sign, covered in neon lettering, which pronounced this moon Eber. According to the sign, Eber was a rest stop for weary travelers, which possessed a few hotels, restaurants, and ship repair shops. It was, in essence, the perfect place to land.